everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Never Seen It. My name is Betsy, and with me as always is Trent.
Hey, Betsy.
Hi, Trent. So today we are returning to a series that we do every year. We didn't do it the first year, but we've enjoyed doing it the last two, so it's back for round 3.
Yeah.
What we are calling our Decades series, where we're going to be watching a number of movies starting in 1964, 74, 84, and so on, all the way up to present day.
You get the gist.
You get the gist. And we are, of course, beginning at the beginning with 1964, and a film that I've seen what you might describe as an exceptional number of times. And somehow, in his nearly 40 years on this planet, my darling husband Trent has never watched. That's right. From 1964, we are watching the all-time Disney classic, Mary Poppins. Trent, how in God's name have you never seen this movie?
As you were going through all those, I just kept on nodding my head. Yep, I've never seen this. Nope, never.
But how?
I don't know, Betsy. Probably because I grew up with kind of older parents who didn't really... they were never into a lot of classic movies. They weren't into family movies and children's movies. They weren't really into movies at all. And I didn't have any brothers or sisters to watch movies with. And we never had something like the Disney Channel.
That is true. That is fair. But this one is a pretty major blind spot. So when we said we're going to do this series, I was like, well, I know what it has to be in 1964.
Yeah. When we looked up 64, it was a whole bunch of other movies, but this one was just staring us in the face. And with this decade series, every single year we've done this, we try to pick out a movie from at least the decade that kind of defined the decade, if not the year itself. And I will say for the 60s was very much the decade of musicals and westerns. Those are the genres that really define Hollywood. So the reason why we pick Mary Poppins, for one thing, I've never seen the movie, and it is a big-ass deal, but Mary Poppins is one of the movies, not the, but it is one of the movies that you really pick out from this decade that you could say is, okay, that's one of the greatest musicals of all time, if not maybe the best Disney movie of all time. But I've never seen it. So we watched, for one of our Patreon shows, the Wayback Machine sent us back to 1965, where we covered The Sound of Music. And that was another one I had never seen. But during the course of that episode, I kept getting The Sound of Music and Mary Poppins mixed up. Even though I have never seen those two movies at all prior to when we did that episode, I kept getting them confused because it's Julie Andrews coming into a rich person's home and being some kind of nanny. So very different settings and whatever else, but it's almost the same story.
That's definitely only partially true, but I'm sure there are other things through the lexicon of Disney and 60 years since this movie came out.
Yeah.
That you know about Mary Poppins. So tell me what you have absorbed, things that you know have sourced from this film.
So the two people I know for sure are one that I already mentioned, Julie Andrews is Mary Poppins, and of course, Dick Van Dyke. So we were just talking before we hit record on this episode, and we were kind of going through the man's filmography. I have never seen a Dick Van Dyke movie of any kind. I've seen television that he's done.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of episodes of Diagnosis Murder.
Sure, because, I grew up in the 90s, I grew up in the 90s, and I had the television on at 3 p.m. But those are the two people that I know from this movie. I know, like I said, she's a magical nanny who comes down from the heavens. She has a magical umbrella, and she sings songs to rich English children. That's really my synopsis here.
Do you know the songs in this movie?
I probably do. Now, I was very surprised, and you were too. When we watched The Sound of Music, I knew almost every single song in that movie without ever seeing the movie itself, because that music is just in the culture. It's in the lexicon. You know these songs. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more in this movie that I'm going to recognize. I can't pull any
You
out
just
of the
can't
top of my
name
head.
them.
No.
You'll be spending the rest of this movie going, oh, I know that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. Because
Right.
I know you know at least one song from this movie.
Absolutely.
Well, Trent, anything else that you know, or are you excited to watch this one because you've been confusing the two?
Yeah, it's a really big one here, and this is like classic Disney shit. And I know it's gonna be, let's just say it's probably gonna be dated when it comes to a lot of references and whatnot. Other than that, Betsy, I know she's a magical nanny who teaches the children how to behave, and she leaves at the end of the movie with her magic umbrella. So yeah, let's get to it.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to go and watch Mary Poppins for 1964, and we will be right back. And we're back from 1964. That was Mary Poppins. Trent, what did you think?
I think I had more fun with this one than The Sound of Music, but I will say I think I recognize a lot more songs in The Sound of Music than I did this one, because there are quite a few that I just did not recognize. But this was good. I enjoyed myself here. As musicals go, and as these types of movies go from this era, these movies are never going to be for me, but they're absolutely for my dear wife and co-host, Betsy. I could not help but try to picture little Betsy, little young girl Betsy, watching this movie and becoming inspired. And I'm just going to talk about that for the rest of this episode, because good God, did I just envision you as wanting to be some of these people? And if you know Betsy in real life, you know that she is a big old weirdo and is very much into being, silly and very...
Trent, I'm into whimsy. Is there something wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. And it just started right at the beginning with Dick Van Dyke in this one-man band thing that you see in movies like this. I could see it. I could see you wearing that exact thing and just being goofy like that on the street corner.
There's definitely elements in this movie that I have like lifelong goals to accomplish. One of them being becoming a one-woman band. It's a very stupid thing, and I can't play that many instruments, but you got to start somewhere. The other one being when they jump into the painting and they have the cartoon band, and they have the outfits that are covered in buttons.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a real thing where people they were called pearly kings and pearly queens. It was like this subset culture in England. And it's so over the top just to decorate your clothes like that. But ever since then, I've been like, I just want that. I want to make an outfit covered in little buttons and start a one-woman band.
If you could make a living doing any of the little things in this movie, you absolutely would. You would quit this podcast. Yes. You would quit your job. You would quit me and go off and do whatever it is.
I would stay with you. You're stuck with me. I would quit my adult job. I don't want to work in an office or do anything responsible. That's just nonsense.
But this podcast, no, that's for life.
No. This is the fun part. I would do this, but he just hops around from job to job, and that's how he gets by.
Yep.
And there's something appealing about that kind of a lifestyle. In 1910, when the movie takes place,
sure,
it's a little harder to get by doing that in 2024. I'm a realist, unfortunately, also, as well as a whimsical little being.
It is 2024. We are in the gig economy, so you could probably pick up a gig doing this type of stuff.
Trent, would you allow me to just be a street peddler and a chimney sweep?
Selling kites on a street corner and drawing things
chalk
on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Would you allow me to get by
Kidnapping children and showing them a good time.
the meager earning that I would get out of that?
Yeah.
I'd be full of joy. I too would be dancing with my legs up to my chest.
Right.
But alas, I have to live in the real world where, jobs are required. And it sucks when you want to be so whimsical.
That's really what I was thinking about this entire almost 2.5-hour movie. And I don't know what else to say here, because Mary Poppins is one of these movies that just is in the culture. Like I've said, you obviously have a very long history, and I want to hear about your history with this movie. But in sitting here right now, is this a movie that I'm ever going to watch again? Probably not. But however, I am very curious to possibly look up the quote unquote sequel, the reimagining, the follow-up to this movie that came out, just a few years ago, where they actually brought back Dick Van Dyke for a small part.
Well, actually, he plays the old man again, I think.
Yes, I did look that up.
Which in retrospect is bizarre, because they say at the end of this movie he died laughing.
He died of laughter.
And I hadn't watched this one again before I watched Mary Poppins Returns. I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
But there are some through lines from this one to that one.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't expect this is a movie that you're going to watch all the time. But I also think that you were quite impressed with some of the effects for being 60 years old. I think there were things about it that you really were impressed by, that spoke to you, that you could acknowledge as, okay, this is a well-made movie and you understand why people love it.
One thing that I didn't mention in the intro is that I knew that there was going to be some kind of like animated sequences along with the live action people. So I did know about that. But I will say, the couple of like main scenes that I'm going to talk about here, the ones that are the most impressive are, of course, the ones where they go into this drawing world where the background is all matte paintings, but there's actually some physical things, some tangible things that they're walking on and interacting with, that it blends together just magically. And I know for some of the later releases of this movie that I'm sure they touched up a lot of the stuff that would kind of take the magic out of it. Like, you don't see any strings, like I always like to point out in other movies that I see him in. You don't see that in this. And does that take away from the whimsy of it? I don't think so. I'm okay with them going in and adding the magic back in, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that scene where they are in this drawing and they have all this animated stuff along with it in 1964, that's the thing that impresses me the most.
Yeah, there's some sequences like the bird, when the robin flies into the window and lands on her hand and is singing while Mary Poppins is singing. I was looking at it going, how did they do that? Because you can't see any strings. Is there like a little like robotic mouth on it that somebody's controlling? Is there somebody behind her and beneath the screen?
Like, is there a stick that they're moving, or is it like just a robotic kind of a thing?
Right. I couldn't figure out how they did that. The way they have in that same sequence, she's singing, but her reflection is also singing. Mm-hmm. The way they edited that together looked pretty seamless.
Same thing with her carpet bag when she's pulling everything out of there. All of that is either all just retractable things that they had to make for this movie, or there are some camera tricks here, which I'm sure there are.
Well, you can tell when they're kind of in front of a screen. There's a few moments.
There's a separation there between the kids and Mary Poppins pulling shit out of the bag.
Well, and that sequence in particular, when I was a kid, that blew my mind. Like, I look at it now and I can see how they did it. I can see that they're in front of a screen and they're playing back footage. It's not real. But as a kid, I was like, what is this bag and how does everything come out of it?
Of course. And when you were a kid, all you had access to was like a VHS tape on an SD TV.
Oh, yeah, it looked like shit.
Yeah, it's going to look like shit. But the very act of her doing that is going to be impressive to a small child. And that's what this movie is for.
Yeah, this is, if nothing, a magical ride for children.
Yeah.
There's so many things that happen in this that you're like, I want to do that. I want to have this lovely time with Mary Poppins.
It's a perfect melding of the Walt Disney of old and new, because you have the live action stuff, which is very whimsical, but you also have the very impressive animation. This is one of the best eras of Disney animation that I can think of anyway. one of my favorite movies from this era is 101 Dalmatians, and I could see the animation, I could see the styling of the people who were drawing this stuff just in all this animation that I'm seeing in this movie.
You can tell it's the same animators.
Exactly. It melds together just perfectly. And again, you don't really see the seams. You know when there's a rotoscope outline around the characters, what they're doing there, but I just kind of took my mind out of it and just, replaced the logic part of my brain with, it's a kid's movie. Come on, have some fun.
But they do it so well where they blend the practical effects. Like when they're on the carousel horse and then the horses all take off from the carousel.
Exactly.
And they're riding through the countryside and they just have like that little touch of when the horse goes down and the pole is dragging through the dirt, and the cartoon part of it, the animated part, is the dirt being dug up.
The live action horse is digging into the animated ground and it is making this divot in there, and it's very impressive.
There's so much of that throughout this movie where they do a lot of wire work, so much wire work.
Right.
And it's really effective at times. If you're really trying to be analytical, you can see like, okay,
of course
I see
they're
how
wearing a
doing
harness. I don't care about that.
No, but it's so fun. It's so fun. Like, I can't help but watch this movie and just smile like the whole time.
The other one that I wanted to mention here, the one that impressed me really the most, is the chimney sweep dance scene where everybody just pops out and they're going to have their little number. That was really impressive just from a choreograph point of view. It was kind of flawless, to be honest. And I read something where they had to do, I think, 2 or 3 takes where one of the takes was perfect, but there was a scratch on the film, so they had to do it over again. They thought they were done, but they had to do it again.
It is the biggest musical number in the movie. And yeah, that would suck, especially when you're doing this all on film. In 1964, on a set, there's only one way to make this happen. And I love watching that sequence because, it's just such a big, wild number.
And it allows the Dick Van Dyke character to really show what he can do. I kind of want to get into this now because...
Okay, I know.
I have a theory.
All right, Trent.
I have a theory.
There's a lot of theories about this movie, but I haven't heard this one yet, so give it to me. Because you said it out loud while we were watching it. I said, hold that thought.
So when we start the movie, Mary Poppins is up in a cloud. She's
hanging out.
Just hanging out, waiting for the call, waiting for the wind to change.
Waiting for her cue.
As you do. And you also see Dick Van Dyke down on the ground. Bert, doing his one-man band thing and asking for money and just being of the people. But then he looks at the camera and addresses the audience. And later on, I don't know the exact sequence of events here, but the conclusion that I came to is that Dick Van Dyke is God. And
Bert is God.
Bert is God, yes. And Mary Poppins is one of his angels because they know each other very, very well. They have a history here. No one else has ever seen Mary Poppins in this entire neighborhood.
Nobody seems to know her but Bert.
But Bert does.
And Bert's kind of omnipresent. He is everywhere throughout this movie.
Everyone and everywhere. He has all the jobs in the world, and he has the uncanny ability to make a drawing on the ground and hop into it with his child companions, plus his angel, Mary Poppins.
Well, strictly speaking, it's Mary Poppins that gets them in there because he doesn't manage to do it himself unless he's just trying to throw us off his scent.
I feel like he is channeling. There's a lot of things here you could say. I think it's mainly, if I'm going to go down this road here, he is making her do her job and use her magic because he is trying to get Mary Poppins to earn her wings, as it were.
So her mission is to help people on Earth to earn her wings? Is that the deal?
His mission here is to help Mary Poppins use whatever latent powers that she has in order to, because all the other things that you see her do, like when they're cleaning up the nursery, those are minor miracles. If you really want to impress God as an angel, you have to use your powers to bring these children into this other world and show them a good time.
Okay, that's one way to interpret this movie.
I had to go down this road so far, Betsy, while watching this.
So that is your theory, but I heard another one online because people of the internet are fabulous. A completely different theory about Mary Poppins and how to explain her. She's a Time Lord. So for people who have watched Doctor Who,
I am not one of them.
Or are familiar with Doctor Who, the whole thing about this show and how they have kept it going for 60 years is they had an actor playing the Doctor, and then they needed somebody else. Like, he didn't want to do it. I don't remember the circumstances, but they needed to replace the actor who played the Doctor.
It's also a very British show.
Yes. So they concocted a element of the show called regeneration, where the Doctor had this magical gift that if he's about to die, he can expel energy and change his face. And he's basically reborn as somebody else. That was the logic that they gave to how they can recast the actor, but it has become canon in the show. So the evidence that Mary Poppins is a Time Lord. One, we have Mary Poppins and Mary Poppins Returns, and she has two different faces, but everybody acknowledges her as Mary Poppins, and nobody finds it strange that it's a completely different person. She can appear throughout time without aging. She has a bag that is bigger on the inside.
All right.
And she just can stop, finds some companions, goes on adventures, and then they part ways. They are not meant to be together forever, but it completely changes their lives. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Sounds like a Time Lord.
I can see that. It's also a weird British thing about replacing actors and having it be the same person, like James Bond. James Bond has
also
been going
a Time Lord.
almost as long as this movie's been out. And yeah, they keep changing the actor, and it's the same person, even though we are changing eras, changing times, and the political landscape changes. It's the same guy, James Bond.
But the people around him are the same and acknowledge him as the same person.
Exactly.
So I'm just saying, there's some thought here.
Something about the Brits just like this concept, I guess.
I guess so.
I like my theory better.
Okay, fine.
Bert is God.
Well, let me ask you another theory, just an interpretation. Let's put aside for the moment that Bert might be God. Why do you think Mary Poppins goes to this family at this time?
Besides the fact that the winds change?
Right. Why this family? Why now? What is her purpose, apart from being an angel earning her wings?
Well, you can see this family is going through some hard times. The mother is off on a crusade. Her goal here is women's suffrage. This is 1910, before really any industrialized nation has the vote for women. So she is dedicating her life, basically, to this cause, a noble one. And the father is a banker of some import. I don't know exactly his title, but in a big, important job like that, your time and energy are very much taken from your job. But what of the children?
What of the children?
The home life, there's the help. We have the cook, and what was the other one?
Another like maid or something.
Housekeeper, let's say.
Yeah.
But there's always been a nanny, but the nanny keeps on getting replaced. What did they say? It was like 6 nannies within 4 months?
Something to that effect, yes. The nannies keep leaving.
Yeah, but why? It is implied here at the very beginning of the movies that these kids are just rambunctious and they cannot be controlled and whatever. They're just hellions. But they're not. They're really just kids. So honestly, you're asking me this question, why is Mary Poppins coming here now? I think it's more not for the kids, it's for the parents.
Ding, 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 ding. You did it.
I did.
Yeah, that's one of those things that when you're watching this as a kid, you just think, oh, they're kids and they're going on magical adventures with the magical nanny. When in fact, she is there and the whole time she is sort of backwards lecturing the parents about how, especially the father, Mr. Banks, is not a present father.
Neither is the mother.
Neither
the mother
is the
might
mother.
be worse because the father actually agrees to bring the kids to work with him.
He kind of agrees.
He does do it. He does do it, though.
Yes.
The mom is just saying, hi, I love you, goodbye. She's always saying goodbye because she's going off on this other thing.
But of course, because of this, they don't pay attention to their children. And I think they don't explain it. You could say that some of the nannies quit and some of the nannies were fired because all dad sees is his kids are running wild. He doesn't actually know the circumstances for their running wild.
I can assume that maybe the reason why some of these nannies are leaving is that they're being asked to do more than what was expected.
Yeah.
That they were hired for. Like, hey, you're supposed to be home at 6 o'clock and I need to go home. But they're not actually coming home. They're not actually being there with the kids. And
they're just being left with these two children all the time. The parents are not involved, and it's not what they signed up for.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the movie, Mr. Banks has a breakthrough. Basically, he realizes that sometimes it's okay to just be silly and love your children and fly a kite and dance in the streets and be a nonsensical human. And it doesn't all have to be serious all the time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the point of the book. This is based on a book by an Australian writer named P.L. Travers. And this also has something sort of in common with the last movie that we watched. So the last movie we did on this podcast was Jackie Brown. That was adapted, as we touched on, by Quentin Tarantino from another author. And he was very nervous about sharing that story. And he got the author's approval, basically.
Yeah.
And he loved the adaptation. P.L. Travers hated this movie. But the point that she was trying to get at, she had this hard life. Her dad had a lot of problems and she had this weird relationship with him. And she wrote this book basically about her dad and how could she, as an author, have helped her own father. And that's how Mary Poppins was born. So when they're making this movie, they're like, oh, she's there to help the children. She's like, you are missing the point of my story.
Yeah.
She is there to help the parents. And that is why she scoots the second he figures it out. The second mom and dad are like, oh my God, we're bad parents and we need to spend time with our children. And they're dancing in the street. She just Irish goodbyes. She just leaves. She doesn't say goodbye. It's all fine.
But she also has a talking umbrella Betsy that
She does.
talks to her.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just a little insane.
I don't know if she's totally insane if animals can talk to her and she understands them, or it's just, like you said, she's an angel. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too far along, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsor and then we'll be right back. What's the matter, Billy? You look bored just sitting there clicking that pen.
Well, Becky, I've already listened to this week's episode of Never Seen It, and there's nothing left for me to do. Guess I'll just sit here and click this pen until next Sunday.
Wait, Billy, what if I told you that the Never Seen It crew puts out 4 other shows every month?
4 shows? How do I get those?
It's easy. Just go to patreon.com/neverseenitpod, and for $5 per month, you get access to all their extra content.
Wow, that sounds a whole lot better than clicking this pen.
It sure does, Billy. It sure does. I think it's about time we talk about our star of the film, Julie Andrews as Mary Poppins. How did you overall feel about her character? Because I know, as we've mentioned, you really only have seen The Sound of Music as far as her movies go.
Yeah, considering the fact that I've only really seen The Sound of Music, and I enjoyed that movie, and the big surprise that I had with that movie is that there was a love interest there. So I was kind of bracing for that to happen, which is another point on my thing about Dick Van Dyke being God, because you're not going to have a relationship with this other person who is a deity. So, but as far as Julie Andrews is concerned doing this thing, it's just what she does, right?
At this part of her career, yes. This is the movie that put her on the map. In 1964, right before they started making this movie, she was on Broadway. She originated the role of Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady. And at the time that they were adapting that into a movie, which also came out in 1964, she was considered too much of an unknown to play the role in the movie, even though she had, I think maybe won a Tony or something. It was a big starting off point for her. She was very, very famous on the stage. But Jack Warner, who was in charge of Warner Brothers at the time, said, nope, she's a nobody. We're going to cast Audrey Hepburn. But that left her open to be able to do Mary Poppins, for which she won an Oscar. This is the movie Julie Andrews won Best Actress for.
All right, then.
And in a just chef's kiss moment, when she went up there and won her Academy Award, which she won over Audrey Hepburn for the movie she wasn't cast in, one of the people she thanked was Jack Warner for not believing in her and turning her down for that movie.
Wow.
Because if she had done that movie, she might not have won an Academy Award.
All right, then.
But I love that story. Like, it's such class and beauty that she had when she was up on that stage. And she was just like, I'd mostly like to thank him for not thinking I was right for that role, because I wouldn't be here with you tonight if he had.
Yeah. The other thing that I read was, I'm not really going to get into the history of this man, but Walt Disney himself had not attended a premiere for one of his movies since Snow White.
Yeah.
He went to the premiere of this movie, and he said in his later years that, paraphrasing, he basically said, this is his crowning achievement. This is his best movie. Because he had such a hand in making this movie. Obviously, there are animators. Obviously, there are crew members and whatever else. But at the beginning of this movie, this says, Walt Disney presents himself.
Trent, there is an entire movie about the making of this movie.
I'm sure there is.
Yes, Saving Mr. Banks. And that's where a lot of this can be found, all the stuff about P.L. Travers. You know who wasn't at the premiere? P.L. Travers. She's listed as a consultant on this movie because she was the author of the book.
Right.
And they did not get on. And she had a lot of problems with this movie. And the soundtrack, like the songs she thought were nonsense. And she didn't have enough whimsy for the direction he was taking the movie. And yeah, I don't remember if they ultimately did invite her, but they definitely forgot to invite her to the premiere, or forgot in quotations.
Sure.
Her baby, her book that had, been her life's work. So there's a lot of history with this. So it's interesting that Walt Disney personally said, this is the thing. This is my greatest moment. And you can understand why, because at this point he's been going for 30 years almost, or over, I guess.
Yep.
And it's this culmination of the live action stuff, which he had been hammering away at for about, a few years. They had only been doing the live action stuff for maybe 10, 15 years. And all of the animated stuff in one magical movie that gets nominated for Best Picture along with 9 other Academy Awards. This was nominated for a lot of stuff and won several of them.
And that's really what I was getting at in the beginning of this episode. It is the melding of all of the talent at Disney, down to Walt Disney himself having a hand in this. You had just the murderer's row of animators and crew members and writers and whatever else working on this movie, and it became a masterpiece. Now, for 1964, which is the reason why we're doing this, I can see why this movie would be nominated for Best Picture. I can see why she won for Best Actress, because this is what people were clamoring for.
It was an original musical for the screen. Most of the musicals at this time were stuff from Broadway being brought to the screen, which there are some big, beautiful musicals from it, but this one is very, very unique. Which is funny to say now because they kind of tried to copy paste this formula for a lot of movies that came after this. And I don't think any of them were nearly as successful as this one was, for style anyway.
Well, I'll tell you this, you certainly would not have been able to do this movie on the stage. Not in the way that it is presented. You can't have them going into this big, colorful drawing. You can't have the animated stuff on here. It is a tailor-made movie for the screen.
They have adapted it for the stage, though. It does exist in the context of a Broadway musical, but I've actually not seen this one on the stage. So I don't know the changes in how they make it still magical. But I've heard it's good. I've heard it's a very good show. But you do lose some of that magic when you have to do it live.
Yeah, you can only do so much. And I didn't know that there was a stage musical based on this movie, but it makes sense, obviously. But yeah, you can't have everything, all the magical things that happen in the nursery. You can't have them literally jumping into this drawing. you can't have the horses on the merry-go-round detach from the thing and go through a thing. Yeah.
I mean, that one, I bet they could figure out how to have the horses detach. I've seen some pretty magical things on stage.
Sure, but you still can't have it as presented here.
No, you have to figure out a way to make it work.
There's at least a substitution for it anyway.
Fair enough. The other person who is the star of this movie is Dick Van Dyke. As you said in the intro, you've mostly seen his work in television. You've really not seen any of his movies. And I rattled off a few, and even his more recent ones you have not seen.
Nope.
So what did you think of Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins? Because I'm going to tell you, people have opinions about this one.
He was delightful, Betsy. I loved him in this. He is this goofy motherfucker who is all limbs like you are. Yeah, he's having a great time.
I love him in this movie. I just love him in general. He is one of
He's
those.
such a great guy.
He's one of those people that emanates joy.
Yeah.
And you can't help but look at him and smile. And is he the greatest singer in the world? No, but his voice is so pleasant and so familiar to me because I don't remember a time in my life I haven't heard Dick Van Dyke singing in these movies and know who he is. Is he the greatest dancer in the world? No, but he's such a physical, comedic
He
guy.
makes up for it in gusto.
And they make the choreography around his skill set
Yeah.
instead of trying to make him do things he's not ready to do.
And that's a great way to do it. It's smart.
Yes, so his maneuver, his big move is kicking those long legs
Yeah.
up and
Get
flapping
your
like a
knees up.
bird.
Get your knees up.
And if you make all the dancers do it, suddenly it's like your signature. And he
Right.
does this in pretty much every musical he's in. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, same thing. He does this wild dance where he's like leaping over brooms and he's kicking his legs up and waving his arms. It's just his thing. And he's so charming in this.
And think about the differences between what you would have on the stage. You would have trained dancers with backup dancers who just do this. This is for a movie. So it makes sense to tailor this to your actors rather than the other way around.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked as well if he was being handed choreography and just expected to do it,
Or if he didn't do it at all.
or if he didn't do it at all. Julie Andrews doesn't dance that much in this movie, but she does. And when the two of them dance together, she's keeping up. I don't know her background as a dancer. She's more a singer. But she's done Broadway and she's done musicals, and you see them next to each other, but I feel like you're probably looking at Dick Van Dyke when they're dancing together.
Sure. Because his face is so emoting there. And honestly, the thing that I was thinking about, the movie that we covered on the show, I think was it last year, White Christmas, where
Danny Kaye.
you had these again comedic people. A couple of them didn't really have a huge background in dance, but they're there for their charm, they're there for their acting ability and whatever else.
And it transcends.
Yeah, and
you don't need to worry about it.
And there's even one section in that movie where they just don't have the main person dance because the other gal that they cast there is a real fucking dancer, and you can't have a bad dancer with a good dancer if you want it to be impressive.
Yeah, I think that's why this pairing works, because I don't think either of them are first and foremost dancers.
Yeah.
They can dance, they will dance, but these two are comedians and singers before they're dancers.
Yeah, and it really shows, especially with that rooftop scene where they're literally just kind of running around, but it's in a comedic form. There's a lot of stuff that they can walk on and jump off of. It's very impressive. That was my favorite part of this movie.
The step in time number.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. I also like how they make you uneasy. Like they change the tone of the music and you think, oh God, they're going up too high and they're going to fall down and they're wobbling. And then they just start doing high kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. They subvert your expectations a number of times.
It's very high energy and it's just fun. It's funny.
It's absolutely funny. So one of the things that you didn't mention in that entire thing, and I'm really surprised, and you can't tell me you've never heard this, about Dick Van Dyke's choice of accent in this movie. Like, you can't tell me you don't know about this. Or maybe you can and you're about to blow my mind.
I mean, I can't really say anything specific.
Trent,
but this is just, a regular ass bad Cockney accent.
Trent, this is probably the most notoriously bad accent.
It is bad.
In any movie ever. Like,
Yes.
when you ask British people in particular, like, who on film does the worst British accent? this is the answer most people give.
Yeah, it's bad.
Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins, they were like, well, he just showed up and started doing something, and it's like he didn't even try. And for this kind of movie, I don't care. Like, yes, it's, hello, governor, chitty, chitty, bang, bang. It's very stupid and silly.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I
This
don't
is
care 'cause
1964. You don't have elocution lessons. You don't have
you
accent
do.
coaches.
You
don't
do.
have this stuff that is just tailor-made for these kinds of movies. It just didn't exist, at
No.
least in the quality that it is now.
No, it did exist, but it's not that kind of a movie. Who cares?
You're not trying to get period accurate and regionally accurate
No.
accents for these people.
He's doing something. Is it good? No. But the fact that everybody is like, this is the worst accent I've ever heard, I'm like, arguable.
It's bad.
It's not good, but that is like the thing that people take away from this. And I just think it's unfair because look at the man. He's
Yeah.
such a delight.
To me, it was not distracting, but I did notice how bad it was. Of course.
He's at least committing to it. He's doing it the whole movie. I didn't really notice him slipping in and out of it or anything.
No, there was a couple of moments here that were kind of weird, but nah, it was fine.
Oh, that's just funny. That's funny that you didn't even mention it, that it bothers you so little.
Yeah, I didn't care. I mean, there have been bad accents in movies forever. This is just another example.
Fair enough.
But I will say, there is a part of this movie that I kind of hate.
Uh-oh. Okay, hit me.
The scene with the uncle whatever his name is.
Ed Wynn, when he's up on the ceiling.
Yeah, that entire scene was annoying. I hated the songs, I hated the laughing, and I was having the same kind of a reaction that Mary Poppins was in that scene. Just shut the fuck up, man. This is terrible.
It is funny how Mary Poppins is basically gaslighting everyone in this movie. Like, nothing whimsical ever happens around me. I'm a lady and you can just shut your mouths. And I don't have time for your nonsense. So in this scene, you do not love to laugh? Is that what you're telling me, Trent?
Oh, I love to laugh, but not like this.
Oh,
not like this.
I don't know if this is my favorite scene when I was a kid, but I definitely wanted to laugh so hard I went up to the ceiling. That part appealed to me.
Nuh-uh. I did not like this one bit.
Well, do you know that actor, Ed Wynn?
His voice sounded familiar, so I looked him up, and yeah, he's done a lot of voiceover work for Disney.
So the thing
He's the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, that's the thing you'd probably know him from. But if you're extrapolating, do you remember the king in Wreck-It Ralph? In Wreck-It Ralph, they go into the video game.
Yeah.
And I can't remember his name, but there's a little dude voiced by Alan Tudyk.
Right?
And he's the king, and he says, we're going to race. He's doing an Ed Wynn voice.
Oh, okay.
That's what that voice is. That, hello, don't be silly, that thing. I don't think most people our age remember or even have ever heard of Ed Wynn.
No, I certainly do not know the name.
We're so far removed from him as an actor in his career. But me being a Mary Poppins fan, and he's in some other movies that I really like. And specifically, I know that that is the reference point for Wreck-It Ralph. So it's this weird continuation in the Disney canon that they are drawing from this specifically.
And, I mean, Alan Tudyk is a fantastic voice actor. He has gotten a whole lot of work from Disney in the past couple of decades.
He's kind of the new Ratzenberger, where Ratzenberger's in all the Pixar.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk's kind of in all the Disney live
Whether he
animated
has any
stuff.
like speaking moments at all.
No, he's a chicken in one.
He's a chicken and yeah.
What did you think of the kids in the movie?
I appreciated that they were allowed to be kids. They didn't ask them to do anything extra. In fact, there's one thing that I read about when Mary Poppins is taking stuff out of her bag that they didn't tell the kids what was going to be happening. So whatever apparatus that they had to hide everything or whatever, the kids were reacting naturally because they were not expecting all this stuff to come out of the bag in the way it was.
The amazement on their faces is genuine.
Correct.
Yeah, I think these kids are cute. They don't have a ton to do. But, like, I believe them when they're sad and they're going to cry, their little faces. It's just like, how could you say no to that?
I also liked it was a sweet moment when they wrote the ad and they sang it to their dad.
Yep.
Which, okay, I have to talk about this because I have to sing every single time. It just happened in another thing we recorded for some other podcast. Betsy, there is a Simpsons episode
Of course.
that is completely cribbing from this movie. The entire episode is this movie. It's not just one little section
They get
from...
a nanny. The Simpsons get a nanny.
It is a Mary Poppins thing. And they write an ad exactly like this to this tune, but it's just funny. So, of course, after we're done recording, we're going to watch that episode because I can't not.
Listeners, you do not know how many times we watch a movie and we finish recording and Trent immediately summons up the exact season and episode. He knows just where to find what he's looking for.
I have a general idea of
You know what
era.
season, certainly.
No.
Okay, well, you seem to produce them as quickly as possible.
It's called Google. I know how to look these
But
things
yes,
up.
you make me sit down and you watch the episode that is based on the movie. And it happens a lot. It happened when we watched The Exorcist. It happened when we recently did an episode with another podcast on The Shining. It happened when we watched Thelma
The
and
Fly.
Louise, The Fly.
Yep.
We have done this so many times. And I think it's just because The Simpsons has been around forever.
And the Simpsons are a bunch of fucking nerds
They
who
do.
like old cinema like
Yeah,
this.
They do.
Yeah.
The only other person we haven't really talked about, I guess the people we haven't talked about are the parents. The guy playing the father, he's another one of those people that was in a lot of Disney movies around this time. I know him from this and when he did a few years later when he was in Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah.
And that is basically the movie that most directly is trying to copy paste from this movie. It's in England. There is an animated sequence where they're in an animated world, but there's magical stuff happening and there's live action stuff happening. And that one at the time really bombed. But the thing I always remember is it's the same actor. And he gets away with speak singing. I love that you can just cast this guy. He's perfect in this role.
He is.
He's clearly not much of a singer. Like the songs that are written for him, he's just sort of speaking his way through.
And me being me, my response to that is, so what? Honestly, if you're just being there as an actor and you are this fuddy-duddy of a dad, you're not going to be a good singer. You're not supposed to be a good singer.
I'm kind of surprised that back in those days, in the 50s and the 60s, they would put people in these roles and they knew they couldn't sing, but it was fine. And now when we do it, people get absolutely up in arms when people cannot do it for real. And it's such a generational thing. Like there are a lot of movies from the 50s and 60s. Another one of them, I'll bring it up again. Rex Harrison as the professor in My Fair Lady does not sing. He's just speaking. He's kind of almost rapping the way he is going through these songs. And he was nominated for Tonys. He might have won a Tony. He was nominated for an Oscar. And he totally got away with it. And now you make something like Mamma Mia, where the three guys in Mamma Mia, those actors, none of them are known for being singers.
Nope.
And most people hate how they sing in that movie because it's not good. Like, it's not good. But so many people forgive it because they love Mamma Mia.
Sure, and I really think that this is it's a difference in era. Back in the 50s and 60s, like you said, there were so many musicals coming out, whether they're based on Broadway or not. It was everywhere.
We needed bodies. Let's go.
But in later decades, you didn't have so many musicals. If you were a singer and you were a dancer and you wanted to perform, you would go to Broadway. You would find your niche over there, and that's where you can make your bank. There's not a lot of Broadway people who come over to Hollywood these days.
Or if they do, they make a little blip and then that's kind of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a time difference. You just don't get a lot of movie musicals anymore unless it's, animated.
Another person in this movie who has done other musicals is the mom, Glynis Johns. The thing I otherwise know her from is The Court Jester, which was in the 50s with Danny Kaye, which I am shocked that in all the years we've been together, I've never made you watch The Court Jester because it is one of the funniest movies. I love it so much. But she has kind of a wild speaking and singing voice. She's got that very, very high, like she kind of sings and speaks like that, which again is an unusual choice. And kind of amazing that she's able to have a career with that.
Okay, Honestly, she had like one song in this movie that was about women's suffrage, which is great. But I feel like this movie itself kind of was forcing the issue, especially with the dad with the speak singing. I feel like they were just trying to force more and more music into this musical.
More songs.
Yeah. Not that any of them were like bad, because I mean, I don't have an ear for such a thing, but that's what it felt like to me anyway. Even the stuff with Julie Andrews singing. There's a couple of songs here that I just kind of didn't care for.
Well, one of the songs, the one that you just said, the women's suffrage song, has one of my favorite song lyrics.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Though we adore men individually, we agree that as a group, they're rather stupid.
Yeah.
Bravo, songwriters. Bravo. But speaking of the songs, you said you didn't know as many in this one. And I understand that because there are like the dad singing and the song at the bank. And there's all these kind of little ones sprinkled in. But the big ones you knew. You knew A Spoonful of Sugar.
Sure.
You knew Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Congrats, you did it.
Can you not say that?
I'm not going to. I'm not going to try.
You also knew, did you know It's a Jolly Holiday with Mary? Had you heard that one?
No.
Interesting. There's been a video going around because now in his later years, Dick Van Dyke has a barbershop quartet, and that is one of their numbers.
Okay.
So sometimes that number will be floating around, him singing It's a Jolly Holiday.
I mean, I knew the Chim Chimney, and I knew the Step in Time. I knew all the big ones with him. I didn't know of her like looking into the globe.
The Feed the Birds.
I kind of hated that song. I didn't like the lullaby early on, which apparently Julie Andrews talked the filmmakers into keeping that song in the movie. They're going to cut it when the kids don't want to go to bed.
I feel like there's a lot of songs that don't need to be in this. Like, this is almost 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it's definitely got the musical length.
Yeah, it's like they assume because people are living in an era of Broadway that every musical has to be at least this long. But there isn't an intermission with this. There isn't any stop in the flow. It's just song, 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 because that's what they think it needs. I wish more musicals...
in the modern era, you would not have a movie this long for kids. You just don't.
No, I wish more musicals were like 8 songs and be done with it.
Yeah, have a couple of bangers in there and you're good.
Yes. All right, well, I just have a couple things I still wanted to bring up, and they're mostly just things that made me laugh. Like at the beginning when all the nannies are lined up and then the wind changes and they all blow away.
Yeah, that was one that I wrote down.
I love how they did that. That one always makes me chuckle.
This lineup of nannies killed by a freak wind. I can see the headlines in tomorrow's paper.
I also enjoy when Mary finally pulls out her measuring tape and they have very specific definitions for the heights of the children, specifically that Michael is extremely stubborn and suspicious, that Jane is rather inclined to giggle and doesn't put things away, and then, of course, Mary Poppins, the first time the name is spoken in the movie, she says her name, Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way.
I was also kind of clocking here. Are they ever going to just call her Mary or Ms. Poppins or anything? It wasn't until the Step in Time song where the Chimney Sweepers called her Mary.
There's a few times they call her Mary, but when we were talking about this about a week or so ago, you asked me that question. Do they always call her Mary Poppins? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Almost everyone who addresses her uses her full name.
I mean, it's good branding, but the one thing I wanted to really mention here that I just got a kick out of every time, and I think it's one of those repeated jokes getting funnier and funnier as you go. It's when the cannons go off and the entire house shakes. That was a great effect.
Where they move the entire set.
Yeah.
And there's clearly people like dragging things and shaking
But
things.
everything is done exactly how they want it to. All of the stuff on the walls move exactly how they want. All the stuff falls down exactly how they want. That was funny every time.
And it's just part of life. They say, man your battle stations.
Yeah. Which, again, that entire thing doesn't make sense. Why is there an admiral up there keeping time?
Oh, yeah, that's the whole thing. How you know that this movie is just supposed to be silly. This world they live in is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even the serious adults are not that serious. Like we said, the guy at the bank, also played by Dick Van Dyke, He dies laughing, and nobody seems to think that's that unusual.
And like the scene that I didn't like with the uncle, number one, that scene did not need to be there at all, except for, hey, this is a little detour and something else that these kids and Mary Poppins can do.
That's the whole movie. They have little detours. They're going on an adventure together.
Fine. But I mean, in the way I'm thinking about this, it seems like this other angel that is being checked on is maybe a little bit going off his rocker and needs God to come in and get him in line.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he is some other kind of spiritual deity that we haven't addressed yet.
Sure.
But he's not that relevant to the overall plot.
He's really not.
Well, Trent, did you have anything else you'd like to say? Parting thoughts about Mary Poppins before we wrap this up?
So 1964 is an interesting year, but of course we needed to do Mary Poppins. I had a good time. I think I like The Sound of Music better as a movie, but I had more fun with Mary Poppins.
Yeah, this is a movie I do not remember a time I hadn't been watching Mary Poppins. This has been with me my entire life. You asked me while we were watching it, when was the last time I watched it? I think a couple years ago, but I'm not exactly sure. I put this one on more often than you might imagine. It's not like an annual viewing, but every time I watch it, it just makes me smile. It's just a cute, fun way to spend a couple of hours. And it is interesting in the context of 1964 that this is what we considered, best picture worthy.
Yeah.
And I love that they acknowledged the achievements that they were able to do and that most of it still holds up.
And even if you just look at the technical nature of making the film itself, it is head and shoulders above anything else that would have been released that year, I'm sure.
Top of the line. Disney did not fuck around in those days. He was like, if I'm going to
like
do it.
Yeah, they only made like fucking one movie a year.
Yeah. They put the time and the work into it. And that's why it's a classic. And I'm glad we finally did this, Trent, because I don't know how much longer we could stay married if we didn't watch Mary Poppins.
Or if I didn't like it.
Or if you did. Oh, God. One of these days, that's going to happen. And that is the reason I hold
You're going to
back.
leave me?
No, that is the reason I hold back sometimes on certain movies, because I'm so terrified that you're going to hate it. But you know what? So far, the ones like that are really special and important to me that we've done on the show, you've at least enjoyed them. I don't think any of them have been like, this is the worst movie of all time.
No, I would never say that. But again,
not to my face.
This is a movie exactly for Betsy. Again, as I said before, if you've ever met Betsy, you would know that this is a movie exactly for her.
Even if you haven't met me, but you've listened to this show for a while, you might be able to pick up this is kind of my movie. On paper, it sounds like a movie I should be into.
Just the very fact that the movie is just filled with whimsy, joy,
music,
and fun, and especially the music.
I love when adults remember that they can have fun. Like Mr. Banks is so serious and full of responsibility, and at the end of the movie, he flies a kite.
He's flying a kite.
That is the way everyone should live their lives. Don't forget to have fun once in a while.
Hell yeah.
That is the lesson you should take away from Mary Poppins. But that is going to be the end of this one. We would love to know, because I'd be willing to bet most of you have seen Mary Poppins. Where does this one land for you? Do you watch this one a lot? Have you shown this one to your kids? Is this one that weirdly you are not a fan of? I would love to hear from that person. Please explain. Explain yourself.
Because there's only one of you.
There's all one of you. You can send us your thoughts at neverseenitpod@gmail.com. We've got just a little bit of an older one here that we got from Mitch, our fan from up in Saskatoon. He's been going back and just checking movies off of his watch list and going back and listening to some of our older episodes. And he listened to The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which is one we did when we had Wednesday episodes and we did Western Wednesdays. And that was a big one that I had not seen.
Yeah.
He says, "Howdy doody, Trent and Betsy. Just got done with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance while on my summer movie series. I'm not a Western guy, but this one was a super fun and easy watch. James Stewart was good and John Wayne was John Wayne Pilgrim." As I recall, I think I was saying there should be a drinking game. Drink anytime he says Pilgrim,
Oh, God.
and you'd be very, very drunk.
Yeah.
He continues, the film tricks were also cool. Black and white filmmaking really emphasizes the way John Ford could use light and shadow. I always wonder what a guy like that could have done in today's movie era. I gave this movie 8 jars of maple syrup. We're going to keep moving on this summer. Lots to get through. You guys keep it up. Mitch from Saskatoon.
Excuse me, Betsy. He says Mitch from Saskatoon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, and that is his scale. His syrup bottles are his scale of rating movies.
Yes, if you would like to tell us your rating scale or your thoughts on that movie or Mary Poppins or any of the other
Or
ones.
Canada.
Or Canada. Once again, that email, neverseenitpod@gmail.com. Thank you, Mitch, for always sending us those. I hope you've been enjoying your summer viewing as we have.
Yeah.
I'm curious what he's been watching since, because we haven't heard from him in a week or so.
Yeah, summer's almost over.
It's true. People get busy trying to wrap it up, trying to get all the things they didn't do this summer out of the way before fall begins.
And hey, yeah, we're going to be going on vacation here at the end of this month. So yeah, we're doing the same thing.
We're doing the same thing. But you can send us your thoughts via email. You can also message us on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Twitter. We're on all those platforms. You don't have to send us an email if you just want to send us a message directly. Comment on our posts, share our posts, whatever you want to do for us to know that you're out there and you hear us and you see us. We would also love if you go to wherever you're listening to podcasts and rate us 5 stars and write us a review. A lot of people haven't done that yet. I would love a review. I like validation. I've said this before, and nobody will validate me.
Tell us you love us.
Tell us you love us.
In the
Rate
most forceful way.
Rate us 5 stars. But if you really love us, you could also go to patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where every Wednesday we have more shows that you can listen to. We've been doing all kinds of nonsense over there. We've been traveling through time. We've been working through the Mad Max series, which is about the, age of apocalypse on planet Earth.
Yep.
Romances, conversations, you name it, we're kind of covering it. And we've got 7 months worth of content over there, almost 8 whole months by the time this episode is out. So you should check us out. Again, patreon.com/neverseenitpod for all of those episodes. So that's going to do it for 1964, but the Decades series is just getting started. Obviously, the next one's going to be 1974. Trent, what are we going to be doing for that episode?
Well, as kind of a follow-up to our episode where we covered The French Connection, we're going to be covering another Gene Hackman movie called The Conversation, a movie that I don't think I have ever heard of before we started doing research about 1974.
But we watched a trailer and we were like, nope, that's the movie.
This is exactly the vibe that I'm looking for 74. So come back next week for The Conversation.
But until next week, my name is Betsy.
And my name is Trent.
And we'll see you then.